And the best image was taken on October 2nd by the HiRISE camera on board the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. And unfortunately, the argument is because of the government shutdown.
October 29th, 2025. While Atlas was making its closest passage to our star, hidden from our view but visible to space-based solar observatories, something that should be physically impossible happened. And when I say impossible, I'm not exaggerating. I'm talking about a direct violation of fundamental laws of physics. Atlas turned blue. Not slightly blue, not with bluish tones, intensely, impossibly blue. Bluer than our star itself. For you to understand the magnitude of this discovery, let me explain why this is so disturbing. For an object that should be 20 times colder than the solar surface to emit more blue light than our star is a direct violation of the laws of thermodynamics. Cold objects don't emit more blue light than hot objects. This isn't a suggestion or a trend. It's a fundamental law that governs how matter interacts with energy throughout the known universe. The data came from multiple independent sources, making it absolutely impossible to dismiss as instrumental error or calibration failure. Stereo A's twin cameras, the HI1 and Core 2 instruments, both recorded the blue shift with spectroscopic precision. SOHO's LASCO C3 coronagraph independently confirmed it. GOES 19, a weather satellite that was monitoring solar activity during the critical window, captured the same impossible blue glow. These are instruments designed by different teams, operated by different agencies, processing data through completely different pipelines. They all saw exactly the same thing. And what they saw defies everything we thought we knew about how frozen objects from interstellar space should behave, as Dr. Avi Loeb from Harvard put it bluntly in his analysis. For this object to appear bluer than our star defies basic thermodynamics of how cold bodies interact with stellar radiation. Dust should redden scattered sunlight. Atlas's surface should be approximately 20 times colder than the solar photosphere, resulting in a redder color, not bluer. The only natural explanation would be an internal energy source. But what source would that be? And why would it activate exactly at the moment of perihelion when Atlas was closest to our star and hidden from Earth observation? The acceleration that defies explanation? But the impossible blue color was only part of the story. While Atlas was performing its impossible color transformation behind our star, something else was happening, something that may be even more significant for our understanding of what we're actually observing. David Farnocchia from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, a navigation engineer with a PhD in mathematics from the University of Pisa, detected non-gravitational acceleration during perihelion. And we're not talking about a small perturbation. We're talking about 135 kilometers per day squared of radial thrust away from our star, plus 60 kilometers per day squared transverse, perpendicular to the solar direction. These aren't trivial forces. This isn't statistical noise hidden in error bars. This is real, measurable, directional thrust occurring exactly at 1.36 astronomical units from our star, right at perihelion, right at the moment of closest approach when we couldn't see what was happening. Now, comets naturally accelerate all the time through what we call the rocket effect. Sublimating ice creates gas jets that push the comet like tiny rocket engines. This is completely normal and expected. But here's what makes Atlas different, and why this discovery is keeping some of the world's best physicists awake at night. To produce 135 kilometers per day squared of acceleration through normal rocket effect, through normal gas ejection from a sublimating surface, Atlas would need to be losing mass. A lot of mass. Dr. Avi Loeb did the analysis. Everyone was thinking but hesitating to publish. Using conservation of momentum, one of the most fundamental laws of physics, place end 20 determined, that for an object of Atlas's estimated size and mass to generate that much thrust, it would need to be losing approximately 10% of its total mass over the course of a month. 10%. Let that sink in for a moment. This isn't gentle evaporation of ice crystals in space. This is catastrophic mass loss. This is the comet essentially exploding, ejecting billions of tons of material in a continuous hurricane of outgassing that should create a massive, bright, absolutely unmistakable cloud of gas and dust around the nucleus. A cloud that should be visible across the solar system. A cloud that every telescope should easily detect when Atlas emerges back into view in November. As Loeb stated his prediction crystal clear, we should see a dense gas cloud around it in November and December. Not might see. Not maybe we'll see. Should see. Because if the non-gravitational acceleration is being caused by natural cometary outgassing, then the laws of physics, specifically conservation of momentum, require that this cloud exist. It's not optional, it's not uncertain, and if we don't see that cloud when Atlas emerges in November, then the acceleration can't be natural. Something else must be producing that thrust. Something that doesn't involve massive material ejection, the images that disappeared. And here our story takes an absolutely frustrating turn into bureaucratic absurdity. Exactly when Atlas was making the most important observations of its entire transit through the solar system, when we finally had the opportunity to obtain high-resolution data that could definitively resolve its nature, government bureaucracy intervened in the worst possible way. October 1st, 2025. The United States government ran out of funding authorization. Multiple agencies, including NASA, were forced to furlough non-essential personnel. Scientific operations continued where possible, but communications stopped. Press release launches ceased. Data sharing slowed dramatically. And the next day, October 2nd, Atlas passed just 30 million kilometers from Mars, closer than Mars has ever come to Earth in all recorded human history. HiRISE, the high-resolution imaging science experiment aboard NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. This is a camera that can resolve 30-centimeter features from an altitude of 300 kilometers above the Martian surface. A camera that has photographed collapsing avalanches, dust devils casting shadows, the parachutes and landing platforms of rovers that touched down decades ago. When pointed at an object 30 million kilometers away, this camera could achieve a pixel resolution of approximately 30 kilometers. To put this in perspective, our best Atlas images from Hubble and Keck had resolutions 3 times worse. These images were taken. Multiple researchers confirmed that HiRISE was tasked with observing Atlas during the Mars flyby window. The geometry was favorable, the pointing was possible, the observation was successfully executed. And then the images disappeared into the bureaucratic void created by a government shutdown that began October 1st and lasted weeks. Avi Loeb was explicit about this in multiple interviews. In his appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience, in his written statements, in interviews with multiple news outlets, he clearly stated that he requested access to these images. He contacted the HiRISE principal investigator directly, received no response, followed up, still nothing. The images exist, they're sitting on a server somewhere in NASA's data pipeline, but they haven't been released, they haven't been made public, they haven't been shared with the scientific community that desperately wants to see them. NASA hasn't confirmed the existence of these images. They also haven't denied it. They've said absolutely nothing. The silence is deafening. Loeb called it terrestrial stupidity, not evidence of aliens, not a cover-up, but basic human incompetence interfering with discovery. The universe doesn't care about government shutdowns, he said. Science doesn't pause because politicians can't agree on spending bills. The scientific war, Loeb versus the establishment. These discoveries have created a civil war in astronomy that goes far beyond Atlas. It's a fundamental battle about how science should respond to anomalies, how much weight to give unlikely explanations, and whether the possibility of discovering something truly revolutionary justifies the reputational risk of being spectacularly wrong. Brian Cox, physicist and science communicator, stated his position unequivocally. Atlas is a comet made of carbon dioxide and water ices and bits of other things. It has a predictable orbit. It will pass by our star and continue drifting through the galaxy. Speculation about alien origins is, in his words, nonsense. It's sensationalism. It's misleading the public about how science works and what the evidence actually shows. Loeb's response was equally direct and much sharper. Cox is like a cave dweller who finds a telephone and calls it just a rock. Real scientists play on the field guided by data, while commentators sit on the sidelines repeating popularity contests. But safe positions don't lead to revolutionary discoveries. They lead to confirmation of what we already believe. But Loeb argues that when you have 9 documented anomalies in the same object, when the cumulative probability of all these anomalies occurring naturally drops below a certain threshold, you have a scientific obligation to consider alternatives. even uncomfortable alternatives, even alternatives that sound like science fiction. The data trapped in space, there's a spacecraft out there right now that has already seen everything we're waiting to discover. ESA's JUICE probe, Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, made its ATLAS observations between November 2nd and 25th, 2025. Multiple instruments, cameras, spectrometers, particle sensors. The craft was perfectly positioned to observe the comet in the immediate aftermath of perihelion, during the critical window when any massive outgassing from the unexplained acceleration should still be visible, still creating a bright and expanding cloud of debris that would be unmistakable in the data. JUICE saw it. Whatever is happening with ATLAS right now, whatever state it's in as it moves away from our star, JUICE has already captured that information. The photons have already hit the detectors. The data has already been recorded. The observations are complete. And we won't know what they show until February 2026. 3 months. 3 months of waiting while the most important data about ATLAS sits in a computer memory aboard a spacecraft that's too far from Earth to send that data quickly home. 3 months of speculation, debate, analysis of older observations, and growing frustration among astronomers who know the answers they need have already been collected but are completely inaccessible. The reason for the delay isn't mysterious or suspicious, it's purely technical. JUICE is currently about 2 astronomical units from Earth and moving away. At that distance, radio signals take approximately 16 minutes to travel in each direction. The craft uses its main high-gain antenna as a heat shield during certain parts of its trajectory, which means it has to rely on the smaller medium-gain antenna for communications. The medium-gain antenna has a much lower data rate, everything slows down, scientific data is prioritized and queued. Observations are transmitted in the order they were made, with the most critical information sent first. For those just arriving at the ATLAS story, let me tell the complete journey of this extraordinary object, a visitor from another star system that is rewriting our understanding of what's possible in the universe. The billion-year journey, ATLAS, was discovered on July 1st, 2025, by the ATLAS Detection System in Hawaii, initially cataloged as just another asteroid until it became clear this object was something far more extraordinary. It was coming from interstellar space, traveling at an impressive speed of 61 kilometers per second, nearly double the speed of Oumuamua, the first confirmed interstellar visitor. Working backward on its trajectory, astronomers determined that ATLAS began its journey an incredible 7.5 billion years ago, departing from a region near the constellation Lynx. To put this in cosmic perspective, when ATLAS started its epic journey across the galaxy, our star didn't yet exist. Earth hadn't formed, and life as we know it was still a distant impossibility. During all these billions of years, this object traveled through the interstellar void, surviving cosmic radiation, galactic magnetic fields, and gravitational encounters with countless stellar systems. The first anomalies. From the moment of its discovery, ATLAS began revealing properties that defied all expectations about how interstellar visitors should behave. Geometrically suspicious trajectory. Its orbit was aligned with the ecliptic plane, the flat disk where all the major planets in our solar system orbit, with a precision of only 5 degrees. For an object coming from a random direction in interstellar space, the probability of this coincidence is only 0.2%. It's as if ATLAS had deliberately chosen the most efficient route to visit multiple planets in a single pass through the solar system. Industrially impossible chemistry. When large ground-based telescopes began analyzing ATLAS's spectroscopic composition, they discovered something deeply disturbing. The object was emitting nickel, but without iron. In nature, nickel and iron are absolutely inseparable companions. They form together in the cores of massive stars, travel together through the interstellar medium, and condense together in the formation of planets and comets. The only known exception to this universal rule occurs in industrial nickel refining processes, specifically the carbonyl process developed in the 19th century. And the dominant gas being emitted by ATLAS? Exactly, carbon monoxide, 87% of all observed volatile emissions. Chemically anomalous color sequence. July, red, normal for distant comet with dust dominating. September, green, normal for C2 emission, but Atlas has extraordinarily low levels of carbon chain molecules. October, impossible blue that violates fundamental thermodynamics, the 9 documented anomalies. Optimized orbital alignment. Only 0.2% natural probability for this geometric precision. Extreme velocity, 61 kilometers per second, nearly double other known interstellar visitors. Industrial chemistry. Nickel without iron, consistent with carbonyl technological refining. CO dominance, 87% of emissions are carbon monoxide. Color sequence. Red, green, impossible blue. Accelerated brightness, brightening rate that broke all predictive models. Massive nucleus, between 440 meters and 5.6 kilometers, much larger than typical visitors. Early activity, outgassing detected beyond Jupiter's orbit when it should be inactive. Solar anti-tail, tail pointing toward our star, unusual geometry. Individually, each anomaly can be explained with extremely uncommon natural processes. But 9 anomalies in the same object, the cumulative probability becomes astronomical. What's next? December will be definitive. November. Atlas emerges from behind our star around the 11th, becoming visible again in the pre-dawn sky, low in the constellation Virgo. If it's still blue weeks after perihelion, this will indicate an active energy source that doesn't depend on solar distance. December 19th. Maximum approach to Earth, 270 million kilometers. Hubble, Webb, and dozens of ground-based telescopes will all turn their full attention to this visitor from beyond. We'll finally get the high-resolution data we need. We'll see the true color with spectroscopic precision. We'll measure the spectral lines and identify exactly which molecules are present and in what proportions. February 2026, JUICE data finally arrives on Earth, revealing crucial observations from the post-perihelion period that may definitively resolve all questions about what really happened when Atlas was hidden from our observation. The truth is out there. We're in an absolutely unique moment in the history of science. Atlas carries secrets from a star system that died before Earth was born. Its 9 documented anomalies challenge our fundamental understanding of physics, chemistry, and what's possible in the cosmos. The impossible blue color that violates basic thermodynamics. The acceleration with no viable natural explanation. The chemistry that only exists in terrestrial industrial processes. The high-resolution images hidden by bureaucracy. The crucial data trapped in space for 3 more months. Maybe it's just a very strange comet with extremely unusual natural properties that require a remarkable convergence of improbable circumstances. Or maybe it's evidence that we're not alone in the universe, that technology from other civilizations is within reach of our telescopes, visiting our solar system exactly during the few decades when we developed the ability to detect it. December will give us definitive answers. Or it will give us even more questions that challenge everything we thought we knew about the cosmos and our place in it. For those following the channel, what do you think of the most recent discoveries? Do the impossible blue color and unexplained acceleration fundamentally change your perspective on what Atlas might really be? For those just arriving, after learning about all 9 documented anomalies, do you think Atlas is a very strange comet with unusual natural properties, or something completely different? If you want to follow this extraordinary story as it unfolds, subscribe and activate notifications. I'll bring all updates as data arrives in December and JUICE data in February. Because one thing is absolutely certain. Atlas is rewriting our understanding of what's possible in the cosmos, and we're living through this potentially revolutionary discovery in real time. Until next time, and remember, the universe is much stranger, more wonderful, and possibly more inhabited than we ever imagined.